The January 6th committee will hold its next public hearing on Monday morning. And while the panel's focus is on President Trump and his closest allies, future witnesses are expected to draw a link between the Trump White House and extremist groups. Hakeem Jefferson is a political scientist at Stanford University. Mr. Jefferson, thanks for joining us. The committee is describing President Trump and his false claims about a stolen election as the catalyst for these events. But you see a lot more going on than just unhappiness over the election. Is that right?
Oh, well, certainly. I recall very vividly sitting in the same exact spot, having watched the images coming out of DC on January 6, 2021. And what was immediately clear to me was that this was about much more than a perception that some election had been stolen. This was a kind of racial backlash, a kind of uprising in the face of perceptions that white people were losing status, that power was being taken away from them, and that Donald Trump's loss of the 2020 election was but the biggest sign of that loss of status.
Because you talked about sitting and watching those pictures. The pictures were also a sea of white faces. Is that right?
It wasn't some kind of magic, that the faces that we saw on the screens before us, the faces of those who were climbing barricades and attacking police, were overwhelmingly white Americans whom Donald Trump and I should say other Republican elites, both in politics and in the media, had told these white Americans that their country had been taken away from them, that they were being replaced.
Do you see evidence of these forces still at work, or at work since January 6th in the culture wars, the social divide that we've been having since then?
Oh, most certainly. You can't understand the movements of American politics, certainly in the spectacular form that it took on January the 6th, but you can't understand state legislatures implementing laws that ban certain kinds of books or that make it illegal to teach certain kinds of lessons about America's racist past without understanding that a lot of white Americans, not all white Americans to be sure, feel that their power is being threatened. These battles are not merely battles over what's being taught to children in schools. It's a battle over the power of narrative. And that's the kind of power that white Americans have long wielded.
You mentioned that the racial makeup of the crowd on January 6th was not random. I've also been struck, and I wonder is it random that so many people or apologists for January 6th make comparisons to Black Lives Matter protests?
I mean, this sort of retelling of history, this recreation of narrative is not new in American life, right? There's a retelling of the period of enslavement still by some. So we shouldn't be surprised that in the face of really hard facts that are being rendered again by way of the committee's primetime hearings, that some would tell different stories. But I think the American people, at least many of us, are reasonable enough to find the falsehoods very present there.
Is there a risk if these factors are overlooked in the analysis or revisiting of January 6th?
Race is the central organizing feature of American politics, and nothing else comes close. And what we lose in not attending to that reality is that we miss the core of what we've seen, that these white Americans aren't merely upset that Donald Trump is not in office. They're upset that his defeat symbolizes a change in the racial order and the racial hierarchy, that a multiracial coalition of voters went out to the ballot boxes and elected Joe Biden, who said that he was fighting for the soul of a kind of multiracial America. It is that reality, the reality of race and American racism, that is at the core of January the 6th and these other aspects of American politics that we're observing.
Hakeem Jefferson of Stanford University, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.